Check this out. This is Ben Curtin, part of the Tata Technologies CAD Geek team, and today we're going to take a look at animating Inventor Geometry in 3D Studio Max Design. As mentioned, this video is part of an ongoing series by premier Autodesk partner Tata Technologies. Follow us at autodesk.cadgeekspeak.com, or if you have additional questions, write us at autodesk@tatatechnologies.com. Let's take a look at importing Inventor Geometry and creating an animation of that inside of 3D Studio Max. So the first thing we're going to do is to pick a design to import. I'm going to use some basic settings here. Go ahead and let that open up. So at this point, our geometry is imported into 3D Studio Max, but we probably need to give it some additional intelligence before we really want to start animating anything. So in this case, I'm going to switch to a local coordinate system. When I pick different components, I can right-click and select Move or Rotate. And you can see in this case, the rotation or the pivot point isn't right where we would want it to be. So I can go ahead to the hierarchy area and adjust that pivot point. So if we use the move command now, it's only adjusting the pivot point, not moving the component itself. So now that that looks like it is moved into the proper position, if we go ahead and rotate it around, and I guess we need to turn off the adjust pivot point. So as we rotate that around now, you can see how it would function. Now there's a bunch of axes still turned on here, so we can probably also go to this link info button and lock some of these degrees of freedom down so it really only reacts in the ways that we intend it to. I can see it looks like the rotation about the Y is really only the motion that applies to that part of this robotic arm. Once some of your basic import and setup's been done, let's go ahead and take a look at creating the animation itself. So again, now that we've got the motion set up, let's make sure we're on a local coordinate system for that part. And all the components, as you can see, just move on their own right now. So if we move or rotate, they don't really stay with each other. So we're going to make a link between the components. All you have to do is pick the link command, then drag and drop from the end of that kinematic chain, keep dragging from part to build the relationship between those components. Once that's been done, if we use something like our rotate command, you can see all of the child components in that kinematic chain follow along and adhere to that same motion. Now if I double click on the first element in the kinematic chain, sometimes it's useful to create a selection set, a saved selection set. I just call it RoboArm, because later on when we start making a keyframe animation, it'll be easier if we set that as the default selection. So we'll just pick the RoboArm as our default selection whenever we're making keyframe elements or setting our keyframes. So let's do that. So we've got our timeline down here. I set our keys when it's at 0, just like it is right here. We'll bump it up to about 50 frames. And we can start manipulating the geometry. So let's rotate this down so it's as if all the people on the roller coaster ride get pivoted down a little ways, like that. We can set the keyframe for that now. One other thing we may want to do is to turn off some of the filters on the keyframe so it's in this case, only considering the rotational changes we make. We don't really need to try to capture any position or anything like that. So it's just going to start capturing the rotation. So let's bump it up to about 100. And actually, let's go ahead and pivot these people back up. But at the same time, we're going to want them to start pivoting around and kind of angling to the left, and then the whole arm is going to rotate as well at the same time. So we'll set our keyframe right there. If we go back and take a look at what we've done so far, of course it starts out moving down, then when it hits the bottom, then it starts angling to the right and turning and pivoting all at the same time. So we can continue this process to create the very specific animation that we want to have. And eventually, you might have a bunch of different steps with different sets of geometry all moving and animating at different points in time. Feasibly, you could have an entire set of machinery or multiple machines doing different operations and animate a factory floor or manufacturing process or something like that. So in this case, we've got a good start to all these individuals on the ride getting spun around into a silly stupor of roller coaster madness. And making just a minor adjustment right here just to make this look more natural. So you can see as that robotic arm started tilting down, I just gave the seat bank a slight tilt up, as if the inertia of those seats showed it a little bit more realistically. Thanks for joining us on this example of a 3D Studio Max animation from Inventor Geometry.